I don't even know what my phone is.
Going for two, kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two, sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this, multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top end. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo! This is the armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo! This is the armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo!
What's going on, guys, and welcome to episode 239 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Jeff Lambert. Follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Of course, we are part of the Going for Two Live podcast network. You can catch us here every Friday night on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch, syndicated in all major podcast networks. And of course, we're streaming in the Going for Two app for iOS and Android. As always, or as recently, we are still having issues with our Twitter comments. So if you are watching us on Twitter, it is best that you go on YouTube because you will not be able to interact with us. We can't see your comments. Restream is currently working on fixing that. So if you want to interact, ask questions, go to YouTube and you can do that. Let me introduce my co-hosts tonight, Mr. Tim and Gerson. What's up, Tim?
What's up, Jeff, man? So happy to be back. He's coming off a good week. Feeling good about this week, too. Can't wait to get started.
Good stuff. And G, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Not bad. Yeah, just ready for another week to get this out of the way. I guess it's a certain player week. I mean, everybody's going to play him, so let's get this out of the way.
All right, good stuff. Let's go ahead and get the rewind.
The Weekly Rewind. Rewind.
All right, Tim, let me go to you first. What you got for your rewind this week?
Yeah, man, I had a really good week last week. One of my best weeks in a while. I pretty much cashed not only all my cash games, but most of my GPPs. My core hit. And when my core hits, it's going to be a good week for me. So feeling really good. Want to carry that momentum right into week 11 because it looks like the lineup construction is going to be a lot similar this week to what it was last week.
Yeah, good stuff. What about you, Gerson? How did you do last week?
I did okay. I built around my core running backs, which was Taylor, Dearness Johnson, and Mark Ingram. On the Sunday show, I said my core running back that I was really going to go hard on, and then just my stacks. It could have been better. I have some Dak Prescott stacks. Obviously, I said on the show, on the Sunday show, if Dak Prescott didn't come through, or the Dallas Cowboys didn't come through, I was going to go find a Dallas Cowboy jersey or something and burn it live on the show. I'm glad I don't have to do that. But, yeah, I mean, it was a good week. I mean, I was kind of pissed because in our arena league that we have, I was debating between the Russell Wilson stack and the Dak Prescott stack. And me being a GPP player, the last question that pops in my head, what's going to win this tournament? Well, I thought the Russell Wilson tournament stack was going to be lowly on. Yeah, it didn't win it.
Yeah, so it's funny. So last week, y'all had so weeks, and I had a good week. This week, you both have good weeks, and I had a shit week. My cash lineup didn't cash, which usually when my cash lineup doesn't cash, all my GPPs are kind of based on my cash lineup, so they didn't do so well either. Actually, probably my worst week of the year. I am ready to bounce back, though. Tim, you had something you wanted to rant about, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. What I was going to say is that, we always talk about how good it is this is a Friday night show because we get so much of the information, and that's, similar again this week. But one thing that was huge that came out last week was Big Ben got ruled out, right? Mason Rudolph started. And, Jeff, I wanted to give you props because you had a really good point about, well, yeah, they're going to continue to feature Najee Harris, but, what does a team have the realistic same point ceiling with Rudolph that they would with Big Ben? And that really got me kind of thinking about, well, yeah, he could get there on volume, but what kind of ceiling does he have? And he ended up getting there anyway because the game went to overtime. But, that very well could have been a bad chalk week if he doesn't come through at the end. So I really like your idea. You got to keep in mind all of those things. But the big thing I wanted to rant about was just not getting locked into players early in the week because I was on Harris – and I was on Cook, and then Sunday morning when Marlon Mack was ruled out, it was kind of a given that Jonathan Taylor was just going to get all the work. And at that point, now it ended up being the best move to actually play Ramondre Stevenson, but my, like I mentioned earlier, my core of Dearness Johnson, Jonathan Taylor, Gerson, and Mark Ingram, that just smashed. So it was a good week.
Yeah, it's definitely. I actually didn't play enough Ingram. I had some Ingram in my lineups, but I didn't play enough Ingram. I had Johnson everywhere, but I definitely hit the Cook. I hit the Cook wall. I didn't, he did okay, but he wasn't what he expected. I expected him from, and CMC did well too. I had CMC as a pretty low-owned player. He did well last week, so he helped me a little bit to get some of my money back. But my cash lineup didn't cash, so it was definitely not a fun week for me. All right, I'm ready.
One thing real quick, I was going to mention this during defense, but I might as well mention it now, is one thing to keep in mind on Sunday mornings, or just in general, is defenses can be very chalky, but they also can be really bad chalk. And they're one of the easiest ways to get different is to play a different defense. So I know that on Sunday morning when Kyler was ruled out, I pivoted heavily to the Panthers defense.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that really paid off for me because they were fairly low owned. And I was able, actually it worked out. I came off Arnold to Conklin in order to get up to the Panthers. So that just smashed. So one thing, we'll talk about this when we get to defenses, though, is look for ways to get different at defense because often the chalk fails at defense.
Yeah, that's a good call. All right, let's get ready to bounce back. At least me bounce back, and y'all keep going.
Let's talk quarterbacks.
All right, we'll start here right at the top, and I'll go to you first, Tim. You have a guy in your top tier that neither me nor Gerson have, but I do like this guy. I just didn't put him down on my list.
Yeah, I think you're talking about Lamar Jackson. I feel like every week I'm talking about Lamar Jackson, but I just continue to play this guy because he just continues to perform. This week he gets a matchup against Chicago Bears, who just lost Khalil Mack for the year. And I think that they're going to have trouble putting pressure on him. I think Lamar is going to be able to sit in the pocket, pass when he wants to, and take off when he wants to. And we know when Lamar has that time, he's unstoppable. He's averaging 26 points a game. At 8K, I think he's still got a ton of ceiling. And I think with some of the value you have this week, you can easily afford him. He also has good stacking options. And we know that Chicago is terrible against the pass. So we'll talk about those options later, but I just love Lamar stacks this week.
Yeah, that's a good call.
We'll talk about it, but I think everybody is going to be playing the Dallas-Kansas City game, and for good reason. So I think that's one of my favorite kind of pivot off the chalk stacks.
Yeah, I like it. Gerson, let's go to you. Who are your top tier quarterbacks?
I raised my hand just to confirm that I'm going to be playing that game too, guys. No, I mean, Lamar's always a great call. I mean, I think this week is just that combination of Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, those two guys are at the top. This feels like a game that's going to shoot out more than over 60 points. I don't see a reason why you just don't want to play that game. Well, the Chiefs looked great last week. Their defense is still not that good, trust me. And they play the Raiders, which I consider an above average offense, but not an elite offense like the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm definitely going to be targeting this game, Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes. And, I mean, only other guy we have to mention is Josh Allen. Yeah. I mean, he probably has the highest, I guess you can say, ceiling for none of the quarterbacks that are being owned highly. But to me, that with Stephon Diggs and Knox being back, it just makes him just as dangerous as all the other quarterbacks on the slate. But to me, I think Josh Allen out of those top 3 quarterbacks, he'll be the lowest owned probably. But again, it's just Lamar, Patrick Mahomes, Allen, and Dak Prescott.
Scott's asking you, G, can you say an elite offense like the Dallas Cowboys again? He says it's got a nice ring to it.
Yeah. They let us down a couple weeks ago. Remember that elite offense, buddy?
Yeah. The only guy I have in there, and he's going to be a low-owned sort of tournament play, Tim's boy, Mr. Rogers, at 7,000 versus Minnesota. I do think that game has a potential shootout potential. I think these teams tend to match up pretty well. Rogers tends to have a pretty good game against Minnesota, and I think on the other side, Dalvin Cook usually owns the Green Bay Packers. So I think at 7K, Rogers is a pretty good play, especially after last week when we all expected him to have this big game coming back from the COVID, and he didn't. I think people will be off of him. So at 7,000, I do like Rogers this week. Move down into the middle tier here, Tim. Who do you have in your mid tier?
Let's see. I want to talk about Joe Burrow. This is a guy that I continue to play week after week, and he's going against Gerson's Raiders this week. We obviously saw, Pat Mahomes tear them up last week, and obviously I'm not saying that Joe Burrow is Pat Mahomes, but I think with the coming off a bye, he has 2 weeks to prepare for this game, and he's coming off a bad game for him. I think that they're going to light it up here. I think this is just such a good spot for them. They match up really well against the Raiders. And, Vegas agrees, right? Because they're coming in at, game opened at 23 and it's up to 26, right, for the Bengals. So, again, they also opened as a underdog and now they're the favorite in that game. So, obviously, Vegas likes the Bengals. I like the Bengals. Great stacking options we'll talk about. So, yeah, I'll have a lot of Joe Burrow this week.
Yeah, I like Joe Burrow as well. And he's got some great stacking options. Gerson, let's go to you. Who do you have in your mid tier?
I have Derek Carr. I mean, I feel like I've been on this train too many times that it's broken down. But I think this week against Cincinnati on the other side, basically of Joe Burrow, I like this game as possibly like a pivot from the Dallas Cowboys Kansas City game. So at 5.9K, I mean, he's coming in at almost 13% ownership. I have him projected for almost 21 points. He has the best adjusted quarterback. This guy, he's going to have to lean it in this game because Cincinnati's going to score on the Las Vegas Raiders defense for sure. I mean, this game total is pretty high up there. I think it's the second best game, right?
Yep.
Yeah, the second best game. 24.5 and 25.5. I hope the Raiders win, though, because I really want them to make the playoffs. But give me Derek Carr at 5.9K.
I like it. So the guy I'm going to mention here, and I was trying to find the tweet while you were talking, and I did find it from Ryan McDowell. So he puts out every week most QB1 games, most RB1 games, most wide receiver 1 games this season. He put out one for quarterbacks, and so 4 quarterbacks have had 6 games of a QB1 finish. Prescott, Cousins, Mahomes, and Brady. No one's had 7. No one's had 8. One quarterback has had 9, and it was Jalen Hurts. Someone that I did not expect to see up there, but he's had 9 top 12 finishes this season. And Jalen Hurts at 6.8 going up against New Orleans. I do like him. He's got that tremendous rushing upside. He's kind of a Lamar Jackson light. He doesn't quite have the passing ability that Lamar Jackson has, but he does have that rushing ability. Gives you that solid floor. And at 6.8, I do like him a lot this week. I also have Tannehill on there too, just because he's playing Houston. I mean, I don't love Tannehill's ceiling, but at 6.7 versus Houston, he can definitely put some points up there for you as well. Let's move down into the value tier here, and I'm going to go to you, Gerson, because I want you to talk about this guy, because I have him on my list too, and I'm a little bit nervous about him. Talk about Cam Newton.
I'm not nervous. He has rushing upside. He's basically what Jalen Hurts can be, but cheaper. At 5.1K, that's pretty damn cheap. I mean, I don't even think Cam Newton, when he was actually a pretty good quarterback, was ever 5.1K. And this offense is all healthy. I mean, what's his name? McCaffrey's healthy. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. They have I think they have a better tight end than besides Greg Olsen. But Tommy Tremble, he can catch the ball too. But I think this offense is fit for him right now because basically they're going from Sam Darnold, a broken quarterback, and then P.J. Walker to Cam Newton. And we saw it last week. This team rallied around Cam Newton. They were hyped up. Yeah. The sideline looked happy. And, I mean, Well, it's just Cam Newton. It's the Washington defense on the other side.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the worst in the league, I believe. Between it's the fighting battle between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Washington football team. Now, this is not a civil war fight, so we don't know who's the worst, but definitely for sure, I love Cam Newton versus Washington this week. Just be cautious. You might want to run him naked. You don't really want to stack him because I don't think he's going to go for 300 yards.
Right.
I think he's right now. I think he's probably going for like 200 yards, maybe a touchdown. But we saw it last week when it got down to the 1 yard line.
It was all Cam.
Basically, he was that. What do you call it? Red zone Cam.
Red zone Cam. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Hey, so I had a question for you guys. You guys ever watch The Price is Right?
Yep.
You ever seen that show called the game called Cliffhangers with the little Yodely guy who goes up the side of the mountain?
Yeah.
That was Sam Darnold. Okay, he went up, and then he just fell off the fucking cliff.
Yeah, that's basically what happened.
He actually looked in the beginning of the season like I would say talented, but he was serviceable quarterback, right? Like maybe they weren't the biggest idiots for letting go of Teddy Bridgewater, and then here comes Cam to bail them out for these terrible personnel decisions. Yeah, I love Cam this week. I think there are going to be two very popular builds in cash. One of them is either Dak or Mahomes at captain, and then more of a balanced, not a captain, a quarterback with more of a balanced lineup, or Cam at quarterback with a couple of pay-up spots. So I'm not sure which way I'm going right now. I'm leaning the Dak way, but I think Cam is a great play. I have him projected for almost 4 times value.
Now let me ask y'all, because some news just broke a couple hours ago, and I don't know if y'all saw this or not, but the coach said that Cam will take the first snap of the game, and that P.J. Walker will actually have some snaps in this game. Does that make you all nervous at all? You think there's any truth to that?
No.
Yeah, I think some of that might be game plan, but I do think that he will mix in, but I don't know how much it'll really impact Cam's value.
Yeah, no, I'm with y'all as well. I actually have him in my value column for Fantasy Pros, and he's cheaper than some quarterbacks that aren't even playing this week. Like I think Chase Keenum's up there. He's higher priced. I think he's the same price as Zach Wilson, who's not playing. His price tag is just too good. Tim, who do you have in your value tier besides Cam?
Yeah, the only other guy I have is Tua. This is a guy I continue to play.
What's his name?
Yeah, Tonga Vailoa.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. No, Tua is a guy I continue to play because DraftKings keeps his price down, and he's had a couple of good games already this season. But one reason I really like it is because it's the Jets, right? We just pick on the Jets every week. Obviously, we're going to pick on them in the run game, but over the last few weeks, they've actually given up a lot of yards to quarterbacks, a lot of points to quarterbacks, and they just lost their best corner as well. So I think this could be a really good game for Tua. I think a lot of people are going to pay down. They're going to go to Cam. So I think you're going to be able to get him at a pretty low ownership. And he's got 2 options I really like this week to stack with. So I like Tua.
All right. So it's week 11, guys, and this is going to be the first time that I've said this guy's name on this show as a recommendation.
There it is.
Mr. Jimmy G at 5.6 going up against Jacksonville. I do think Jacksonville is 31st DVOA versus the pass. And the thing I like about Jimmy G is he's got very condensed targets. Deebo Samuel right now leads the league right now in target share. So you're going either Deebo Samuel or you're going Kittle, or maybe you get both in there. Every pass he makes is going to go to one of those guys there. So Jimmy G for me is a good sneaky play at 5.6, which hopefully he doesn't let me down this time. I mean, he looked really good on the game on Monday night. If he can play that way the rest of the season, we might actually make the playoffs.
Gerson signed off.
Yeah,
he hated that pick so bad he signed off.
Yeah, I saw that. He's like, I'm out. I can't take it.
Yeah, let's just move on to the tight ends before anybody remembers you said Jimmy G.
Yeah.
Did somebody say tight ends?
All right, let's move into the tight ends. Gerson is back. He hated that pick so much that he actually left the room, turned his camera off, the whole 9. But
it hurt my ear.
Let me go to you, Tim. You got the guy you're used to seeing there at the top at 7.1, though.
That's right. Yeah, every week we say the slate begins with Travis Kelce, and when he's playing against the 31st DVOA defense against tight ends, he's definitely in play. He's actually been getting more targets over the last couple of weeks. And most importantly, he's been getting more targets in the red zone. That's what we're looking for. Last week, he had 10 targets. And, he didn't even score, but with 119 yards, he was able to get that bonus on DraftKings, more than pay off his salary. And I think this is such a good spot against against Dallas. We've been talking about how good this game is, scoring environment, high total, a good matchup. Everything lines up for Travis Kelce to just absolutely smash this week.
Yep, I love that call. Gerson, who do you have in your top tier here?
I have Mr. I just play one way and no other way, George Kittle. I mean, this guy just goes out there and plays like it's like his last game of his career. Like, in high school, your senior year, it was your last game. You're like, I'm going to give it everything I have. I don't know if I'll ever play football again, unless you're a fucking college.
He plays tight end like Russell Westbrook plays in the NBA, where he just he goes all out on every single play, it seems.
Or Bryce Harper in the MLB. But, George Kittle, he came back. He looked good. He got targeted a lot. So, it's just, for me, George Kittle at 6.3K, it's pretty cheap. It's not as expensive. We used to get him at 7K. So, last week he came out, got, seven targets, 5 receptions, and like 50 yards and a touchdown. So, I don't even think they really, wanted to force him into the game plan.
Right.
Yep.
They were trying to ease him in, but this guy, he don't believe in easing me in,
Yeah.
And there's a picture of, I can't remember, I think it was George Kittle, after the party's over. And then there's a picture of another tight end before TJ Hawkinson. He looked like Jesus before the party started, and then George Kittle after the party started. That's what George Kittle is. But I love this matchup against him with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're ranked 8th in adjusted tight end. So give me all the George Kittle this week. I think I like him more than Kelce too, as weird as it sounds.
Yeah, I think the discount you get for Kittle is pretty good there. I agree. I think Kittle's an excellent play. So y'all talked about both the top tier guys.
I don't like a quarterback though.
No. I actually just put this in the chat. I almost never recommend 2 tight ends, but this week I think if you wanted to play Kittle and Kelce together in a GPP, I think you're going to get that at a ridiculously low ownership, and I think that they both have great ceilings this week.
I agree 100%. All right, let's move down.
You can fit it with some of those running backs.
What was that?
I said you can fit it with some of these running backs.
Yeah, definitely. All right, move down into the mid-tier here, and I'll go with one of the guys that I have going against the New York Jets. We talked about how bad their defense is, but Mike Gesicki at 5.2 is one of my mid-tier guys. Not much to say.
I thought you were going to let me have this one because of the comment I put on there.
Oh, you know what? I just saw that. So, yeah, why don't you go ahead and talk about him?
So I was for those who don't know, pull back the curtain a little bit. My girlfriend is Korean, and she was listening to me the other night, and she said, "What is that guy's name?" And I said, Gesicki. And she goes, "Do you know what that means in Korean?" And I said, "No." And she goes, "It means son of a bitch." And I looked it up, and sure enough, it does. So it's loosely translated, but I thought that was the perfect thing for him because it seems like whenever he's chalk, he fails, and whenever nobody plays him, he goes off. So I agree. I have Gesicki on my list. Gerson has Gesicki on his list, but he is a son of a bitch, and I guarantee he's going to fail at 5.2.
That is great.
We should have said, Jeff, you Gesicki. You throw his call from him.
All right, Gerson, you have one more tight end in your mid-tier that we haven't talked about yet. Dan Arnold, who's been a pretty good pick lately.
We never saw that when he was playing for the Carolina Panthers or the Arizona Cardinals, but apparently when you have a rookie quarterback that loves little short routes, this guy's on over. If I told you that Dan Arnold, since he got traded to the Carolina Panthers or the Jacksonville Jaguars, had over 7 plus 7 plus 10, 27 plus 5, 32 targets. Holy crap. 32 targets. That'd be crazy, right? They traded for him, but he's getting the target, he's getting the yard. That's what's more important. 67 yards. 13 point, 10 point, 14 point. What better do you want out of a tight end that's always mid-range price,
Yeah.
And Sometimes it's not pretty though. I played Dan Arnold a couple times, and it'd be like 3 quarters. He only had like 4 points.
Yeah.
And then in that 4th quarter, when it's king of garbage time, Mr. Mr. Trevor Lawrence, boom, 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 boom. Then Dan Arnold, next thing you know, he had 10 points. You're like, oh, sweet, hit value. But this week he had a mid-range 18th against the tight end. So to me, it's just about volume at tight end. And if he can get the red zone target, that'd be great too. But he's the highest owned tight end this week. That's what came to shocking to me. So
yeah.
Yep, I like it. The only other guy I have on my list is Dalton Schultz at 4.6 versus Kansas City. Obviously, this game's going to be stacked quite a bit, especially now with the Amari Cooper going to be out. We'll talk about him later on, but that even condenses the targets even more. Schultz in the middle of the field there at 4.6 versus Kansas City is a good play. And Tim, you got one more guy there that we hadn't talked about. Oh, we just lost Tim.
No, I'm here. The only other guy I had on my list is Dawson Knox. This is kind of a price play because he's only 4K, and I think that's just too cheap in this spot. He's consistently scored. He had kind of a bad week last week, but it was his first week back. I think he gets into the box this week. He's just a pay down option. I love the Dan Arnold call. I think Dan Arnold's definitely kind of the chalkier play, but I do like Dawson Knox, particularly in my Josh Allen stacks.
Yep, good stuff. All right, let's move down into the value tier. And Gerson, you don't have a value tight end, at least not one you wanted to mention right now. So I'll go talk about mine. Cole Kmet at 3.4 going up against Baltimore. Cole Kmet is finally starting to get some targets in that offense. We've been waiting for him to get those targets. He's finally getting them. So I do think at 3.4, Baltimore's defense in name value is a good defense, but they haven't been that great this year. So I do think Kmet at 3.4 can be a pretty good option there. Tim, you got you got your sick call from earlier this year.
I do. I didn't want to make him a sick call again, but he's a good play this week. I think he matchup welders are really bad against the tight end, so I'm going to go with my boy.
Oh, did we lose Tim? I think we may have lost Tim. All right. Well, I'm going to talk about one last guy.
I think this is a good matchup for him.
Oh, I think we lost you there for a second. Are y'all still there?
You got me now?
Yep. Now we got you now. Yep, we got you now.
All right. I was just saying it's a good matchup. He's cheap, and it'll let you get different in your Burrow stacks.
I like it. Last guy I had on my list, we just mentioned him really quick, Gerald Everett, 3.1. He had 8 targets, 8 catches last week, 83 yards with Russ's return. By far his best game as a Seattle Seahawk. At 3.1, if he gets anywhere near that target share this week, I do think he'll be good. Now, I will say Arizona's defense versus the tight end is really good. I think they give up the 4th fewest points to tight ends. I think they're 2nd DVOA versus the tight end, but they're also good versus receivers too. So the passes have to go somewhere, so why not to Everett, 3.1. He could pay off his salary pretty easily there. And anybody else we haven't mentioned yet? I think we got everybody, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's get to running backs.
It's time for running backs. Running backs.
All right, this time, Gerson, I'm going to go to you first here with who's your elite running backs this week?
I think we're finally going to have to jump on the Christian McCaffrey. Oh, wait, first off, shout out to Tim because I felt like I was the only one that ever called TJ Uzama your mama. You know, you're my boy, Blue. This is why I love this show. We know our inside jokes and we keep them strong. Yes, CMC, he's back, right? I mean, we saw it last week. He looked good. He did come out and they massaged his hamstring, and my brother Jason almost shit his pants right next to me and said, "Is he hurt?" And I thought he was gonna cry, but I told him, "No, he's okay. He's coming right back in." But I mean, sometimes it is worrisome with those players that have lingering hamstring, but I'm not worried about it. 8.9K for CMC at a full. I think he's going to get a full workload this week against that Washington football team. They ranked 14 against adjusted running back. I mean, one of the worst defense in the league too. So give me him. He's coming in the 2nd highest owned running back. No, actually, I lied. Oh, wow. He's actually not the even top 5 owned running back.
Wow.
So give me CMC, and he's coming in as almost. I have him projected for almost 25 points.
That's good stuff.
So give me CMC this week. I'm going to have a lot of exposure to him. 8.9K, guys. This is a guy that, one point was, 11,000 once?
Yeah, just to give you an idea of how good 8.9 is, I think he's 10K over on FanDuel, and they don't even have PPR, so they have half-point PPR, so I think he's a much better call on DraftKings. Real quick in the chat, I wanted to talk about this, going back to the tight ends. Mark Edmondson wanted to know about minimum price. I think his first name is John, right? John Bates. Is that the tight end?
You fuck.
Oh,
that's my sick call.
That's your sick call? See, I didn't scroll down, man. My fault. I repaid you for stealing my sick call the other week, so.
Okay. Payback's a bitch.
Payback's a bitch.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Because he went all the way back to the previous segment just so he could steal your sick call. That is an all-timer right there.
That's an all-timer.
We're just going to transition right out of this.
To be fair,
let me just talk about it.
To be fair, Gerson's filling out the sheet as we're going through the show, so he had a blank sheet when we started, so I didn't actually go down and look and see who his sick call was.
Oh man, I love that so much. I love CMC this week. I think he's the clear pay up spot. But I think I have the same guy that Gerson does. I think we all have this guy. It's going to be really hard for me not to play this guy in every lineup, even though he's not normally somebody I play, and that's Nick Chubb. I mean, everything sets up for Nick Chubb this week. Home game against the terrible Detroit Lions, coming off a bad week, right? He's coming off he was concussion or something like that. COVID, right? Yeah, he's coming off the COVID list, right? So he had a week off. I mean, sure, Dearness Johnson's going to touch the ball a little bit, but this looks like that spot a couple weeks ago where he had 14 touches for 200 yards, man. I mean, it's 7,800. I don't know how you don't find the money to get up to Nick Chubb. I just see him dropping a 30 this week, and if you don't have him, you're gonna regret it. So, Yeti, I'll go ahead and give a shout out for you already. I got a Chubb for Chubb. I feel it coming on Sunday.
Good stuff.
You feel it coming?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. The only guys that I have besides those, I mentioned earlier Dalvin Cook 8.2 versus Green Bay. Obviously, he tends to have some of his biggest gains versus Green Bay for some reason.
Ain't that the truth?
So at 8.2, I think he's a good play. He's been good the last few weeks, but he hasn't been great. And I think that great game is coming here against Green Bay. And of course, 7.7, Mr. Zeke at Kansas City, also another good play. I think with Amari Cooper out, they may try to run the ball a bit more than they were planning on originally, and Zeke will get most of that workload at 7.7. Let's move down into the mid tier, and there's a guy that's pretty chalky that Tim does not want to talk about. So I'll leave that person for you, Gerson. Talk about Mr. A.J. Dillon.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well get on the A.J. Dillon train. I mean, he got bigger quad than all three of us combined together, too. So, A.J. Dillon, he was that running back. He came out of, I believe, Boston College, right, Jeff? Am I wrong?
Yeah, you're asking the wrong person. I don't know nothing about college football. I don't watch college.
But this guy, when I was watching him, like, for Dynasty and tape, this guy can't catch worth shit. But he can run the ball, and he's fast. He's strong and fast. He's basically a plotter. But, I mean, A.J. Dillon's going to get the workload. I mean, he got over 20 carries last week when Aaron Jones went out. But 20 touches or 20 carries, one of the two. But he's coming in as the highest owned running back. It's no mystery. He's coming in at 24%. I wouldn't be shocked if that goes closer to 30% at the end of the week when people, start realizing, I got to be lazy research. Might as well just lock this guy in. Mm-hmm. A.K.A. I will be doing that.
Hey, he had a 50-yard catch last week. That was really impressive to me because, he had 21 carries for 66 yards. Like, we know he can do that, right? But I didn't know that he could catch the ball and take it and turn it upfield. So it was a little bit of a blown play. But if he's actually going to be catching passes, obviously that raises his floor so much.
Definitely.
I didn't want to talk about him, though.
One of the things is Minnesota does have a pretty good defense against running back. It's not like elite, but they can make it hard for them. But I don't think they're going to make it hard. I mean, we're going to talk about the pass catching and how they'll move the ball. And if A.J. Dillon gets in the red zone, he can touchdown, goal at the goal line, not the red zone. But give me A.J. Dillon. He's 6.2K, guys. That's like basically what Dearness Johnson, like all these running backs have been value over the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
I love the Chubb call, by the way. I mean, if you were going to tell me, he's going to be the workhorse there. So, but yeah, AJ Dillon, it's like a, what do you call it, free square?
Yeah.
Free square.
While we're talking about that, I'll just go ahead and last week it was Dearness Johnson, and by Sunday it was Dearness Johnson and Mark Ingram, right? That were in most lineups. I think this week it's going to be similar. It's going to be Mark Ingram and AJ Dillon. With Kamara out again, I think Mark Ingram is still a massive value at 5,400. He gets a matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles, which are not good against the run. They actually utilized him a little bit in the passing game last week. And my personal favorite play is when they got down in toward the end zone and they used Taysom Hill as the lead blocker.
Yeah.
So I thought that was wonderful. I was glad he didn't snipe those touches. And I think that they're going to be in a good game script this week. I didn't like the having to throw the wheel route to Mark Ingram to get the 2-point conversion at the end. But we'll blame that on Adam Troutman. So I think this is a good spot for Ingram, and I think him and Dillon are going to be in basically all or most of my lineups.
I like it. So this next guy I have on my list, I actually wasn't really on this guy, and then I started talking to a friend of mine, and he kind of convinced me to put him on my list, and I think he's going to be fairly chalky. And that's Myles Gaskin, Miami Dolphins, going against the Jets at 5.7. He's not flashy. He just gets the workload, and that's really all you're looking for. And a running back at 5.7, he gets all the workload. And against the Jets, I think they're the worst against the run this year. So Gaskin's at 5.7.
They're by far the worst.
By far,
it's sick. Like last week, we had guys coming out of the who's it? Your boy Matt Breida came back from the dead. He had 2 touchdowns last week against the Jets. So
yeah,
so bad.
Ryan McDowell, who put that tweet out that I mentioned earlier, had a tweet about defenses giving up RB1 weeks. So there's been 10 weeks. We're in week 11. There's been 10 weeks. The Jets have given up 15 RB1s or RB2s this year. So they've given up multiple RB1 or RB2 games in each game, and they had one last week. Because if you look, Singletary also had an RB2 week. Breida had an RB1 week in the same game. So that's how bad they are. They got multiple running backs that are going to be top 24 each week. All right, Tim, you got a couple more guys. Or you want to mention any of your other mid-tier guys real quick?
Yeah, real quick. We talked about a guy that doesn't look flashy but gets the workload. I think that's pretty much the name of the game for James Conner. This is a guy who, since Chase Edmonds has gone out, has consistently gotten the bulk of the workload, seeing almost 80% of snaps since he's gone out. And last week we didn't see as much Eno Benjamin, which makes me happy because the more he stays on the sideline, the more work we're getting for Conner. I like this even more if Kyler Murray plays because I think that they'll be able to stay up in this game. And we know Seattle is not good against the rush, 31st EVP against running backs. So I think a bunch of things align for James Conner. They didn't really touch his price. Last week he was pretty chalky at $6K. They raised his price by $100 against another good matchup. So I'm going to have a lot of James Conner this week as well.
If I'm not mistaken, right now he leads the league in touchdowns. Am I wrong on that? I thought I heard that somewhere.
That sounds right, but I do know that it seems like he's a lock for a touchdown every week.
Yeah.
You know, whenever they get down in the red zone, they're just feeding him. I know he has as many red zone carries as almost anybody, so yeah.
Yep.
I mean, 2 weeks ago, he had a 40-point game against your 49ers. His ceiling is obviously huge. So,
Thanks for that one.
Had to throw that in. That's what I'm saying, man. You know, people think he's just a plotter, right? Maybe he gets you a touchdown, but he has that high upside as well. So.
Definitely. All right. Anybody else? So we have Michael Carter also in there at 58. Gerson's got Joe Mixon on his list as well. So we just mentioned those guys.
I want to talk about Joe Mixon.
All right, go ahead. You have really small print there. I didn't know you wanted to mention him.
Oh, I did. I think you're getting old, Jeff. You're getting no, I like Joe Mixon a lot this week. The biggest reason is his ownership. It's coming in at 4%. If there's a running back in that mid-range price that can probably blow up for 25 points, it's definitely him. I love Joe Mixon because the fact that the Raiders ranked fourth in adjusted running back, and if you really go look at their schedule, they didn't face an elite running back or a running back that the talent of Joe Mixon. And I think Joe Mixon, his talent is superior to his schedule. And in this game, it's going to be high scoring. And it can go either one way or the other way, a pass catching, high scoring game, or Joe Mixon, contrarian GPP play and deal with all that touchdown. And I mean, we seen Joe Mixon. He's the workhorse now, and he's healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had a bye. He's rested up. Last week he had a bye week, right? I'm correct. He had a bye week last week, right? So against the Raiders, he had 8 touchdowns in the last 6 games. So give me Joe Mixon this week. Contrarian play, GPP play, not exactly going to be part of your core in your cash game or your single entrance or 3 single entries. But yeah, give me Joe Mixon this week.
I like it.
I was really shocked. DraftKings priced him up significantly. This is the highest price he's been all year at 7,600. So obviously DraftKings agrees with you that this is a great spot.
Yeah, agreed. And shout out to Kyle in the chat. He did confirm Connor leads the league in touchdowns with 12. Henry, Cup, and JT have 10 each. So thanks, Kyle, for looking that up for us. All right, let's move down into the value tier. We got some pretty good value. We'll go to you first, Tim, because you got a couple guys there on your list.
I do. I want to mention one guy very quickly because you have another guy that's similar on your list. The Chiefs have not announced if they're officially going to activate Clyde Edwards-Helaire. If they do not, I think Darrell Williams is an excellent play at 5,400. Not only is he good on the ground, but we saw him have a huge game through the air last week. So with that being said, I'm going to go with my revenge play of the week, and that's Deontay Foreman going against the Houston Texans. We saw last week he outsnapped Adrian Peterson. Actually looked like he had a little bit of burst compared to the old man. And most importantly, they actually gave him 2 targets that he caught in the passing game. So I think Tennessee is going to roll over Houston. McNichols is out, so he's not going to play. I expect Foreman to get the lion's share of the snaps here. And going against his old team, I think he's going to have that a little extra bit, get into the end zone. So I think there are so many running back plays on this slate. I don't know that I'm going to have much exposure to him, but I do think he makes an interesting play at sub 5K.
All right, and I'm going to talk about my boy here. I know they've been talking about it in the chat when I'm going to mention this guy, but Jeff Wilson at 5.1. Elijah Mitchell is pretty much all but not going to play. I think he's listed as doubtful, but I kind of expected him not to play even when they said he was expected to play. I thought, you have surgery in a week. You're not playing a football game that same week. It's kind of crazy. But Jeff Wilson has been good when given the opportunity. I looked up his stats from last year before he got injured. So in the last 4 games before his injury, he had 5 total touchdowns and also had a game mixed in there too where he had 183 rushing yards. So Jeff Wilson, given the workload in this offense, Hasty's also out. So he's pretty much the only show in town right now. So Jeff Wilson Jr. at 5.1 going up against Jacksonville is probably one of my highest owned values in my lineups. And Gerson,
you're telling me it's not going to be the Trey Sermon show?
I don't think so. I think Trey Sermon is having a problem learning the playbook, and I don't think he's protecting his quarterback very well either. He's kind of got some issues there. So no Trey Sermon for me.
Didn't he delete like his Instagram or something, or his Twitter profile, like from being 49ers or something like that?
Did he really? I didn't hear that part.
I was high on Trey Sermon, but apparently when you're in the doghouse of
Kyle Shanahan don't care. Yeah. He don't care. He don't care how high you were drafted.
I mean, I don't even know if that's a doghouse. I think that's just like when the dog goes to the doghouse and then someone adopt him and then he's on the road again. Just let him leave. Just stay there. Yep.
Gerson, you only had Jeff Wilson in your values there, so I'll keep talking about the one more guy that I have, and it's David Montgomery at 5.1 versus Baltimore. I don't know why he's 5.5. I think he should be more expensive than that. When I saw that price tag, I thought that was pretty good. He had 15 touches in the last game. He had a bye week last week, so he's definitely 100% healthy. Baltimore's run defense is not – they're kind of middle of the pack. They're not great. So at 5.5, if he's getting 15, 20 touches, I love me some David Montgomery at 5.5 for sure. All right. Anybody else that we haven't talked about yet? I think we got everybody, right?
Yeah, just real quick, guy we did mention was Michael Carter for the Jets. I think that they could end up keeping this game close. And most importantly, what we saw in that Bengals game is that they again utilize him in the passing game. He got 14 targets in that game, 9 catches. Obviously, that slowed down a little bit since, but he's played Indy and Buffalo, which are both pretty good against running backs. Last week, he still managed to have 18 points against Buffalo thanks to that touchdown. So, if he continues to get multiple targets a week while still getting, say, 15 to 18 touches at 5,800, I think he's still a great value. Like I said, there's just so many running backs this week. I think Carter's going to go overlooked, particularly in that same game against Myles Gaskin.
Agreed.
And now, wide receivers.
I think this might be the most receivers I've listed on my sheet probably all season. I just kept like, I like this guy. I don't like this guy. I don't like this. It was like crazy how many.
You never have more than me, and this week you had more than me.
Yeah, kind of crazy. We'll go to you first this time, Gerson, since you didn't have a value running back to talk about. Give me one of your elite receivers here.
I'll leave the guy that Tim wants to talk about. I have Tyreek Hill, definitely number one. No, I'm just kidding, guys. I'll talk about Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams was kind of a letdown last week. I had a lot of exposure to him, and 8.4K versus Minnesota. If you watch the fantasy football show on Thursday, what day was it? Thursday? Yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday, right, Jeff? I don't know my days, guys.
It's on Wednesday. It was Wednesday.
It's a day to end with day, okay, guys? Devontae Adams tears up Minnesota. Last year, he had a 3-touchdown game. He didn't get a lot of yards, but all the other games, the last 3 games before that, he was over 100 yards in each one of those games. He tears up Minnesota. Great game, but that price is a little bit worrisome, so you better find some good value. But he could be one of those wide receivers that breaks the slate like always. And, again, to me, I always play the best wide receiver with the best matchup. He has a great matchup against them. And just give me Devontae Adams. But again, 8.4K is a lot, though.
Yeah, it is a lot. But I do think he's one of the few receivers that can pay that 8.4 off if you do play him. Tim, who do you got in your top tier?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Amari Cooper has been ruled out due to COVID. And so I think that gives a massive bump to both CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup. So I'm going to move CeeDee as one of my favorite receivers on the week. Obviously, he had a great week last week, but I think he's going to carry that right over into Kansas City. At 7,600, he's 800 cheaper than Adams and 600 cheaper than Tyreek. I think this is somebody that you can kind of lock and load. And big shout out to Scott in the chat being the only one in the arena last week to play CeeDee Lamb, looking like a genius. So, yeah, man, I think you can go right back to CeeDee again this week if you're not playing Michael Gallup or both in your decks.
First off, he's a Cowboys fan. So
it's
not like incredible that he played him,
Fair enough.
So my top tier guy I want to talk about, Mr. Deebo Samuel at 7.8, had a monster game against the Rams on Monday night. Go ahead, Gerson, say it. I've mentioned a 49er. Yes, all 49ers. It's all 49ers.
Deebo, Jeff Wilson. I mean, we just need T.O. to come back, too.
Yeah. But Deebo at 7.8, he's been removed from the injury report. I know it's been kind of questionable here and there, but he's been removed. He's fully healthy at 7.8. I mean, this guy has been a beast this year. No one saw this coming. I mean, the whole argument all offseason is he going to be better than Ayuk? Is Ayuk going to take his role? Well, that's been put to rest. Deebo is an elite receiver as long as he's healthy. And up against Jacksonville, I like the Deebo Jimmy G stack. I will have some of that in my tournament lineups. And Gerson, you got a couple more guys in your top tier. Mention one of those guys.
People in the chat room are saying that they're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay, I'll just talk about Tyreek Hill real quick. We've talked about this game all show long. You obviously want exposure, but my favorite thing about Tyreek is the way that they use him. They move him all around the field. It actually kind of reminds me of that game the Cowboys played against DJ Moore, where they kind of locked him up a little bit when he was against Trayvon Diggs, but then they put him in the slot. They have him coming out of the backfield, just find ways to get him the ball. Well, Tyreek Hill is a lot more explosive, right? And DJ Moore, I think he has a lot higher ceiling, particularly in this game, and they get to play this game at home as well, where it seems like he's had some of his best games. So I told you I love CeeDee. I think Deebo is a great call, but it's going to be really hard for me not to have Tyreek Hill in my lineups this week.
So before going to off to the mid range, there's 4 wide receivers. There's Tyreek, there's CeeDee, and there's what's his name?
Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams, the guy I just talked about. And Stephon Diggs. I mean, this guy finally came back last week and showed a great performance. 13 targets, 8 receptions, 162 yards, and a touchdown. That's the Stephon Diggs we're looking for. Or in case people don't know him by that, as Travion Diggs' brother, just in case. But no, in this matchup, I love it. I mean, they have one of the Indianapolis Colts are one of the worst defense versus wide receiver one. Stephon Diggs coming in at 8% ownership. So if you really want to go contrarian in GBP, those other three guys that we mentioned are going to be way higher owned than Stephon Diggs at 7.9K.
Agreed. This is the one last guy. I'm just going to mention him because I do think he's a good play. Jefferson at 8.1. The Vikings force-fed Jefferson last week. They do that again this week against Green Bay. I think that's a good game to stack. You know, if you want to put, it's going to be expensive. Adams, Jefferson, and Rodgers, or Adams, Jefferson, and Kirk Cousins either way. But I do think that Jefferson's going to have a good game this week as well. We'll move down here into the mid-tier, and I'll go to you first, Tim. Give me one of your mid-tier guys.
Yeah, this was a guy I basically almost had in my top tier, but I think he's just below those other guys, and that's Jamar Chase. Again, we talked about Bengals playing against the Raiders, coming off a bye, and I think particularly this last game did not look very good for Jamar Chase. This was a guy who was looking like, far and away just, killing everybody these games that he's been playing. And then last week, I think they had 2 pick sixes on passes that were intended for Jamar Chase, right? Running sloppy routes, giving up early. You just can't have it. So I think he's going to, kind of turn it around this week. You get the narrative, but you also get the matchup, right? The Raiders. Sorry, man, having a rough night. Raiders are one of the worst against the deep ball, and I think that he is just absolutely going to torch him on this week. So I think that Jamar Chase, like I said, he's just below those other guys. You can save a little bit of money, and I mentioned earlier how much I love Burrow stacks this week.
All right, Gerson, what you got for your mid tier?
So basically, these two guys are basically just either matchup or just like the game environment they're going to be involved in. My favorite one is definitely Tyler Lockett. I'm going for low own. I'm going for the guy that has, he can be like lowly owned, but guess what? He's actually not going to be lowly owned. He's 17% owned. And I kept I thought he was going to be lowly owned when I started researching, but no, he's 17% owned. But then I saw the matchup and I'm like, okay, I can see why. I mean, DK Metcalf is going to be covered pretty well, but his price, 6K. I mean, yeah. Russell Wilson back.
Yeah, that's.
It seems too cheap.
Yeah,
if you guys don't remember, I think it was last year on prime time. He had a 3 touchdown game against them.
Oh, I remember. I was playing Jason in the arena that week, and he beat me because remember that game was postponed to the night game. It got flexed.
Yeah,
but it was still on the main slate.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I had to wait around all day for Jason to come back and beat me.
Yeah, that's right. I do remember that.
And that's the thing. Like, that's the kind of thing you're looking for, right? Like, the players just blow up, and Tim, he's like, oh yeah, I got this one. Yeah, he came back and scored like a 50-point game. But give me Tyler Lockett at 6K. It looked like Kyler Murray is going to play because they already ruled out DeAndre Hopkins. I would expect them to rule out both of them together, But, yeah, I hope this game turns out to be what we want it to be. It's an afternoon game, though, so make sure, I think this week is pretty critical for a lot of players in the afternoon game and the morning game. Because you can make sure you use your flex spot wisely.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Tim, you got
late swap opportunities.
You got 2 guys there we hadn't talked about yet.
Yeah, one guy is Brandon Cooks. This is one of my favorite plays this week. 6K. This guy's been consistent. He's been, he's seen a lot of targets. Obviously, his quarterback play has been inconsistent, but they continue to use him. And then one of my absolute favorite plays this week, probably going to be one of my highest exposures, is Christian Kirk. This guy has just really taken over since DeAndre Hopkins has been injured. Last few weeks, he's seen 6, and 8 targets. He's able to get all of this volume and pay off even without getting a touchdown. I think he gets a touchdown this week along with those 8 or so targets, and he's able to more than pay off that 5,700 price tag. So I expect a big Christian Kirk week this week.
I like it.
I love that call.
I like that call a lot. Yeah. So let's move down into the value now, and I'll go first here since y'all took all the mid-tier guys. And one of my favorite plays, and it's kind of chalky now. I had him on my list before it became chalk, but Mr. Michael Gallup at 4.2 versus Kansas City. Obviously, Amari Cooper is now out. I had Gallup as a value before that happened. Now he's definitely a value at 4.2. He had an okay week last week, coming back from the injury, but I do think that this week he's going to be asked to do a lot more, and at that price point in this game with this point total, I think he's basically going to be locked into a lot of my lineups there. So Gallup is my value play that I wanted to talk about. Let's go to you, Tim, on who you want to talk about here.
Yeah, I'm actually going to take a guy that I don't think any of y'all had on the list, and that's Darnell Mooney. This guy has kind of fallen off a little bit in people's radars, but this is a guy who's actually got a really good connection with Justin Fields, has a decent matchup this week against Baltimore, and then we find out today that Allen Robinson is doubtful to play in this game. So I think everything sets up for him to have enormous volume at a low price of just $5,200. I think that he could seriously see 10 targets this week, and you just don't see that kind of volume for somebody that's $5,200. So I'm going to have a lot of exposure to Mooney this week. I talked at the top of the show about how much I like Lamar Jackson, and I'll have Mooney in pretty much all of my bringbacks that have Lamar in them.
Good stuff. Gerson, who do you have in your value tier you want to talk about?
I totally missed the Allen Robinson news. Yeah, I love that call. It's Master Bateman, Rashad Bateman, definitely love Rashad Bateman this week. I think if you follow a lot of dynasty, fantasy football, and whatnot, Jeff helped me. Harmon from Yahoo. Matthew Harmon. What's his name?
I think it's Matt.
Is it Matt Harmon?
Right. Yeah, Matt Harmon.
I think it's Matt Harmon.
Basically, his tools allow you to see like wide receivers are a rookie, but that are going to be elite. Like they tell you his route tree and everything, and then there's also a bulletproof on Twitter. I don't know his real name, but he has a lot of good stuff. Now, Rashad Bateman, me and Jeff been high. Actually, Jeff been higher on him than I have. Jeff probably drafted him over anybody besides Jamar Chase. I hope. I'm just speaking for myself. I hope he did though. But Rashad Bateman, this guy, he got over 80 yards last week, right?
Yep.
Yep.
And I mean, he's coming back. The week before that, he wasn't healthy. Like so it took him. So he got 80 yards, 52 yards, 80 yards, 29 yards. Like the Chargers game, he was just barely they weren't going to use him at all. The second game against Cincinnati, he did great. But I think the last 2 weeks he really turned it on. One thing that did worry me though is that Lamar Jackson was dealing with an illness.
Yeah.
But I hope he's telling the truth where he's just it's just like when you go to work and you cough a little bit. But 14 points, 10 points. I want that in my wide receiver, and he hasn't gone up in price very much. 4.5K against Chicago.
And there's a chance too that Marquise Brown might miss this game. I mean, he was out Wednesday, he was out Thursday, he was limited yesterday or today in practice. Sure. So if he's out or limited in any way, Bateman's a lock at 4.5 for sure.
Hey, I know. The other thing is if Marquise Brown is out, I might actually say that stack of Lamar Jackson, Marquise Brown, Rashad Bateman, and maybe bring it back with Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, Darnell Mooney, and then put in those stud running backs.
Yeah.
Woo.
That would be a pretty sweet
I
stack.
Agree. Yeah, I think it's crazy. Like last week, they brought Sammy Watkins out for like a couple plays, and they were like, "Why are we still running you out on the field? Let's get Bateman back in there."
Yep.
He clearly took his job. I feel bad for Sammy Watkins, and yet I don't at the same time. The only other value guy that I had on my list that we haven't talked about is T. Higgins. I feel like I've mentioned like every Bengal at this point, but it's just because to let you guys know how I'm setting up my stacks, right? I'm going to have a lot of Higgins, I'm going to have a lot of Chase, and I'm going to have a lot of Burrow because I think that they're all in good spots this week. So just round that one out there.
Yeah, I like that. I had some other guys on my list, but most of them were sort of dependent on injuries, and all of them ended up panning out in the opposite way. I had Emmanuel Sanders if Beasley was out, but Beasley's playing. I had Ayuk at 5K, which still maybe could be a value, but I don't like him as much now that Debo is going to be definitely playing. I liked him more when he was not going to play. So yeah, those are the only other guys I had. Go ahead.
What was it? How many damn 49ers can you play?
I'm not going to play all of them in the same lineup. But there is one more guy that we hadn't talked about, Jalen Waddle. Gerson, talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, I like Waddle. I think Waddle is one of my favorite wide receivers in this year's rookie draft. But his 5.6K value salary is, pretty good. He's coming in at 18% ownership. That's pretty damn high. It's just the matchup more than anything against the Jets. The Jets are horrible against pass catching wide receivers, basically like just the passing game. They lately, basically, but they were okay at the beginning of the season, but they've been falling off, like Tim said. But, dude, Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Waddle, like, they seem to click very well.
Yep.
And I know they played together at college or whatnot, but in the NFL, they're just doing great, too. I think Jalen Waddle could be, 10 points, 16 points, 15 points, 29 points. I mean, this guy has the ceiling of 29 points to, let's say, 9 points,
Yep.
to the floor. Yep. But I love this matchup. Very, very cheap at 5.6K. More and more I look at it, these cheap wide receiver values, they're starting to look a little better.
Yeah, it's definitely looking a little better. All right, we ready for the defenses?
Defense, 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 defense.
All right, Mr. Defense. Tim, what you got this week?
All right, guys. I rarely recommend paying up for defense. But I think the spot is so good this week that you have to try and find the money. 3,100 for the Cleveland Browns at home against the Detroit Lions. This game was already looking like it was going to be a good spot because of weather, because of game script. And then we find out Jared Goff is not going to play, and Tim Boyle is being activated from the IR so that he can start in this game. I just think that everything lines up for this to be just kind of like the Cowboys game last week against the Falcons, or the Falcons against the Patriots last night, where you just see a team absolutely unable to move the ball, have any sustained offense at all, multiple sacks, probably multiple turnovers. And I think I would be shocked if the Browns do not finish as a top 5 defense this week. And at 3,100, they're like the 7th price defense on the slate. Just simply too cheap. They're coming out as my number 1 defense this week. If you can't find the money, 400, I think you can play the Panthers. I think they're in a good spot. But I think you want to play the Browns this week.
All right, yeah, I definitely got the Panthers on my list as too. And at 2.4, I don't mind the Washington football team with Cam Newton there. I think, they're not a great call, but at 2.4, they looked really good last week against Tom Brady. They do have the quarterback now. They lost Chase Young, which hurts, but at 2.4, they're worth the risk there. You have one more team there, Tim, the Vikings at 2.3.
I do. I think we've talked about this Packers game, and I think that without Aaron Jones in this game, if Dalvin Cook is able to put a couple of early touchdowns up and put them in a place where the Packers have to throw the ball, it could be a really bad game script for the Packers.
What?
Yeah. So with the Vikings all the way down at 2,300, I don't think anybody will be playing them this week. So it's just kind of one of those GPP options. If you need to save money and get a little bit different, I talked about at the top of the show, fading the chalk at defense. Nobody will be playing the Vikings, so it's a good way to fade the chalk there.
All right, I like it.
And you guys know it hurts me to say that.
Going4two.com's weekly stack report.
All right, Tim, I'm surprised at your stack after the show that we just had and all the players you talked about. This one surprised me a little bit because I thought you'd be stacking the Bengals.
You thought it would be Burrow, didn't you? No, it's not Burrow. I got to it first, so I took the Dak stack. This actually had this stack before Cooper was ruled out, so interesting thing there. It's my value stack a little bit. Dak to Michael Gallup, Dalton Schultz, and then bringing it back with Tyreek Hill. I
like it. And Kyle's asking a question here in the chat, and I want to make sure we get to it. Is it crazy to go Mahomes, Kelce, Zeke, and Lamb in a lineup? So throwing Zeke in there as the bring back along with Lamb, is that kind of crazy?
That's not crazy at all. No, I think onslaught or anything like that in a GPP in the highest total game of the week is absolutely viable in tournaments. Yeah, it could absolutely happen.
I like it. Gerson, you don't have a stack listed on the sheet there. Do you have a stack you wanted to mention?
No, cover yours first.
All right, so mine, if you've been listening to the show, you probably already know what my stack is going to be. It's Jimmy G, Kittle, Debo, and the bring back is going to be Dan Arnold at tight end. He's going to be cheap enough to allow you to pay for some of those guys like Kittle and Debo, and then you got the value running backs you can squeeze in there. So I do like that stack.
You are going with the double tight end. I like it.
Yep, going with the double tight end there.
Spicy.
And Gerson, are you ready for your stack yet?
Yeah, let's go Lamar Jackson, Rashad Bateman. I after thinking about it, it makes so much sense. If Marquise Brown is out, I'm going to do it. So Lamar Jackson, Rashad Bateman, Mark Andrews, and Darnell Mooney.
I like it.
Love it.
All right, let's get to our last segment.
And now, the sick call of the week.
All right, I'm going to go to you, Gerson. I know we talked about your guy a little bit. I stole your thunder, but go ahead and talk about your sick call.
Yeah, it's John Bate. This guy is basically minimum price, $2,500 on DraftKings. So I'm pretty sure he's minimum price on FanDuel too. There's no way he should be priced higher than minimum price on FanDuel. But yeah, I mean, Ricky Seals-Jones is he been declared out yet?
He is out. Yep.
And Logan Thomas is out, obviously, right?
Yep.
So John Bates should be that guy. It's just, to me, I want to get cheap at tight end and pay up for all the other positions. I think this week at tight end, I don't see a guy that's going to get you that 30 points besides Kelce, maybe in Kittle. But even Kittle, I don't see him getting 30 points. Maybe Kelce because of the game environment,
Yeah.
But I don't see anybody else. And if it allows me to pay up for all those other studs like Chubb, like Tyreek, like those top elite quarterback,
Yep.
I want the cheapest of cheapest. And again, this is a sick call. They're always cheap.
Yep, agreed. All right, Tim, who's your sick call?
All right, so I mentioned him earlier in the show because he ended last week with a major blunder that probably cost his team the game. But this week, he's got the narrative, he's got an excellent matchup, and he's cheap. I'm going to go with Gerson's boy, Adam Troutman, for $3,300. Paying way down at tight end, just like you are. He gets a matchup against Philadelphia Eagles, who have been 32nd DVP against tight ends. They give up a lot of points over the middle. I think this sets up as a great spot for him. Since Simeon took over as quarterback, he actually had pretty consistent targets, probably what Gerson was expecting he would get at the beginning of the season that he did not get. Last 3 weeks, 6, 7, and 6 targets. He hasn't gotten into the box yet, but I think this is the week he does it. So I like Adam Troutman as a punt tight end.
All right, I like it. And Gerson put my sick call in there, but I actually had a sick call that I had. I just didn't put it on the sheet for some reason. I'm not as confident of this sick call as not confident. I guess I'm not as I don't love it as much as I did before.
If you're confident in a sick call,
I'm not confident. Confidence is the wrong word. But so with Jared Goff being ruled out, I was a little bit more nervous. But I'm going to put my sick call as Mr. Josh Reynolds at $3,000. They traded for this guy for a reason. He's a big receiver. You know, it is Boyle. He did have a decent game. I think it was last year, the year before last. Not a horrible game. So I do think that Josh Reynolds catches a touchdown at $3K. That pays it off right there. So Gerson put down Quez Watkins for me. I think he's also done a good call at 3.7 going up against New Orleans. The way you beat New Orleans is through the pass, and I think Quez Watkins needs just one big play. He's come awfully close a lot of times here, catching those big plays. He's drawn some pass interferences. If he can just catch one of those deep balls, he'd be perfect at 3.7. So we got 4 sick calls this week. Quez Watkins, Josh Reynolds, Troutman, and John Bates. All right, Gerson is blowing up the chat over here. I can hear bloop, bloop, bloop. So let's go around the room, guys, really quick. Hold on, I gotta read what Gerson said over here. Oh yeah. Let me mention that, Gerson. Go ahead. Good call on that. But so next week, guys, we are doing a show on Wednesday, not Friday. There won't be a Friday show. It's Black Friday. I'm working on Black Friday, so we're going to be moving the show to Wednesday. So make sure you check that out. We'll break down the Thanksgiving slate on its own, and then we'll go into the main slate as well. So definitely check that out next Wednesday, same time, 10:30. And then let's just go around the room really quick, guys. Give us your Twitter handles and tell us where we can find you at. Tim, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, find me on Twitter at Keto DFS, and as always, find us on Facebook in the DFS Armchair Roundtable group. Jeff started the thread this week with his chart, and then we're going to go ahead and have all the way up until lock discussion in the group, so definitely hop in there.
Good stuff. Gerson?
First off, this double show, Jeff can't tell me. We're running a little long today. Sorry, guys. Because it's the double show, so I can go as long as I want. So, guys, expect me to be drunk as shit. No, I'm just kidding. And I proceed to drink. No, you can find me at the Fantasy GDFS on Twitter. You can find me on the Roundtable group, Armchair group, and you can find me on the Sunday show. Guys, I'm telling you, like, I don't know how easier it gets, but if you tune into the Sunday show, I basically give you a free lineup. Like I told you last week, lock in Dearness Johnson, Mark Ingram, and now I forgot the main guy. Who's the lock of the week on running back?
You said Dak and Jonathan Taylor were the other two.
Yeah, and I mean, I basically just show up on Sunday. Like it's with Gladys, Eric, Evan, and myself.
Yeah, there you go.
There he goes. Got it.
We also have Eric in the chat. This is a different Eric, but he has a show on Saturday night, guys. Too. Make sure you check that out. The DFS Pawn Shop. They do a really good job, looking at some value guys, and so check that show out tomorrow. I've been trying to get them on the show to come on as guests on this show, but we'll see if we can't figure that out. Maybe we can get them on for the Thanksgiving show just to pop in and help us break down the Thanksgiving slate or whatever.
Hey, I do want to give a shout out to Fantasy Barbecue on the Sunday show, Eric. He's on the first page of the Scott Fish poll, representing well for going for 2. So
he's
big
crushing.
Shout out to Mr. Fantasy Barbecue.
Yeah, he's crushing it in the Scott Fish Bowl for sure.
So on that Saturday show, I just want to give those guys a shout out too, because usually on Saturday night is where I do a lot of my research for to finalize it, and I put them in my background. And I know that kind of sounds weird, put them in my background, but I mean I listen to them while I'm doing research, and I try to get the feedback. And I do apologize. I don't comment on there, but it's more because I'm so focused on doing my research and I just listen to you guys. But shout out. I think you guys already had a couple of guys win big. Shout out. Good job.
Yeah.
Keep it up.
Yep. Definitely good job, guys. All right. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Obviously, check out all the shows on the Going for 2 Live network. Definitely check out the Sunday show, the Saturday night show with Pawn Shop. For Gerson, for Tim, I'm Jeff. Make sure you're not on mute, Tim, and we'll go to the outro.
Go Pack, go, baby!
You're sicky.